In this session, we are going to talk about what light energy is. We know that we need light energy for photosynthesis, but most of you are not going to be familiar with light itself. When we talk about light from the sun, what we are interested in for photosynthesis is the visible light spectrum only. Remember, way back to physics, when we talk about light, we are talking about light traveling in waves from the sun to the earth. When we talk about light as far as energy, we need to think about light as being little packets. These packets are known as photons. When we talk about a packet of light or a photon of light, what we are interested in is how much energy does it have. If we have a short wavelength, we say that that energy is actually much higher. This is an inverse relationship because if we have longer wavelengths, the energy will be lower. On a spectrum, we look at visible light being between 380 and for us and about 800 nanometers. So in this spectrum, what we're looking for is a rainbow. Remember, nanometer means 10 to the minus 9. So we're looking at very, very short distances. And when we talk about our light being in waves, what we're actually measuring is the distance between the waves. Most of the light that we're going to use for photosynthesis is in this blue spectrum and in the red spectrum. How do we know that? Keep in mind that most plant pigments are green when we talk about chlorophyll. So when we talk about plant pigments, what we're actually thinking about is what color is a pigment. If in photosynthesis we're primarily focusing on chlorophyll, that's green, right? If our pigment is green, what does that actually mean about the light that we see as being green? Well, remember, that means that our green chlorophyll is actually reflecting green light. So when light from the sun comes in to our thylakoids, we're actually reflecting green light and absorbing all other light. So when we look at our spectrum for photosynthesis and for any visible light, when we said that we primarily are photosynthesizing or gaining energy from the blue and red spectrums, that's because the green in the middle and the yellows are actually chlorophyll, and we reflect green light. If you are reflecting the light, you cannot use its energy. So when we absorb all of the other colors, that's what we're interested in. The red and green in particular, or the red and blue in particular, not the green. So with chlorophyll A, as we said, it absorbs best in our blue, violet, and red light spectrums and reflects green. There's another type of chlorophyll known as chlorophyll B, It's going to absorb more in the blue and orange and reflects that yellow-green that we just indicated on the spectrum. Another type of pigments are known as carotenoids. What does carotenoid make you think of? Did you say carrot? You would be right. Carrots are full of carotenoids. That is why we see them as being orange. They're reflecting red and orange. Carotenoids absorb in the blues and greens. Why is this important? Well, a plant may have all of these colors in their pigments. The green is what we see most prominently on our trees in the summertime. But in the fall, when the green pigments are no longer produced, we start to see the pretty colors of the leaves. Many times are reds, oranges, and yellows. So those pigments are overshadowed by the green of the chlorophyll. On our light spectrum, those carotenoids help fill the gap and allow us to get some energy out of green light. When we see carotenoids in nature, in algae, we are used to seeing algae as being green. Algae that are high in carotenoids are actually very, very orange. Copepods eat these algae. When they do, they actually build up enough of the carotenoids to themselves become orange. This copepod, no algae. This copepod, algae with our carotenoids. In humans, we can actually see a buildup of carotenoid levels in your iris, or the color of your eye. If you eat enough carrots, this could actually happen. Keep in mind, please, that you would have to have a diet based nearly solely in carrots for this to occur. So what we're looking for with this light energy is which pigments are going to absorb. That is our entire focus, so that we can get our electrons to do work for us. Those electrons are going to come from our water, remember, in our splitting of water from our overview of reactions. But we also need to look at the movement of electrons within the pigments themselves. What we want to do is energize chlorophyll. So literally what we're going to do is bombard it with light from the sun, and in our chlorophyll molecules cause the electrons to become excited. When that happens, we'll see in the next set of reactions the movement of these electrons between the different photosystems.